Hi there, I'm Lance, and today I'll be doing the 10 questions from Left Hand Tarot. Question number 1. Were you mentored or were you self-taught? A little bit of both. My psychic development training was the first kind of introduction I had formally with a teacher, Sandy Anastasi. So she's still teaching and she has a YouTube channel which I'll put down below. I did that when I was about 12. So that was my first formal introduction to mediumship, psychic ability, divination, magic. She was running a store called Star Child in Florida. So at that time was when I went in formally. Prior to that, I just had been reading books that I found at the library in the kind of like New Age section, or like astrology, some hands-on healing type of things. A neighbor had given me runes, so I had a couple of books on runes. So prior to that, it was all just what I could find. And then after my training, my classes, the course that I took with Sandy, I was kind of on my own again. So for most of the time, it's been my own efforts. Yeah, and then I think about it too as like, I had worked at a couple like New Age stores, like one in Southern California that was more like a magic kind of store, and a rock and crystal store which was more on the New Age gemstone healing type of end. So I had a little bit of different exposures from that, and I was also very interested in Buddhism and more religion as well, so spirituality as a general topic. So a majority of my practice now is actually Buddhist, esoteric Buddhism, but I keep that very separate from my divination and tarot magic practice. So I won't be talking about it much more here, but it influences, and I feel in many ways they're related. In the sense that we're dealing with symbolism and the way the mind relates to reality and the world and our personal experience. So, and then are you a psychic or a tarot reader? Question number 2. Both. I think everyone has psychic ability. I don't put myself out there as a psychic tarot reader. I feel that would put a lot of pressure to perform a skill that I think, for me, when I receive some sort of psychic message, it is something that comes when it comes, and when it connects, it connects. But I don't want to have that expectation from someone that I can read their mind, or I have some knowledge coming from outside of me, special for them. It's not my particular way that I work. I prefer to read the cards as I read them, using my own studies and my own experience with past readings. Number 3, are your predictions accurate, and is accuracy important to you? Well, one, accuracy is not important to me because my readings are not predictive. I believe everyone can do prediction. I'm more interested in whether or not my readings are valuable and meaningful to someone. Can they apply a message, or can they find a new perspective on their situation that is helpful to them and creates more space for them to be more compassionate in their life and more wise? So accuracy is not such an important factor. Number 4, is there anything you can't predict in a reading? Well, again, I don't do predictive readings, but I think you can predict anything in a reading, and then that follows up with a question of whether or not it is accurate. So yes, I have done predictive readings for people that have requested them, and I always tell them right off the bat, it's not something I'm personally interested in, and I don't find much value to it, as much as I would a reading where we investigate why we hold a certain belief, or ways that we could move forward in our life and make choices, taking into account a lot of the circumstances and feelings and ideas that we have about a situation. But I have done predictive readings in the sense of when should I sell something, when will I meet someone, will an art piece be valuable or not, I always say take it with a grain of salt. So number 5, do you use only tarot or are you multi-disciplinary? If I'm doing a tarot reading and someone's requesting a tarot reading, then I just do tarot. If I'm doing my own things, or someone comes and they're just open to having a divination process or experience, then I may incorporate other disciplines as I see fit and as I see them to be useful. And as far as my tarot reading goes, I do study a little bit of astrology and numerology and magic. So I bring some of those elements into my reading with correspondences to cards and how the cards relate to one another elementally or astrologically or numerologically. Number 6, is the message in the cards or is it in your head? It's both. I don't think it's an either or. I think there's a symbol and an image from its own side, which has like kind of universal meanings, and then there's the nuance of my own personal experience, as well as the experience and symbolic associations that the client may have. So it's a little bit of both, card and my head, and also the client, how they respond to something. Number 6, are you a priest or a fortune teller? Also both. It's not an either or question for me. I do have a spiritual practice and I make that known, so it's definitely part of my own bias. If someone was looking for a practitioner that was not engaged in any spiritual practices, I would refer them elsewhere. But I do have a religion and I do have a function in that. I try to keep that as separate as much as possible and instead take a universally spiritual approach, in the sense that everyone is able to have a personal connection to that which is greater than them in whatever way they want to phrase it or relate to it, but it's up to them to develop that relation and they have to have the desire there. So I definitely speak on those terms, and if someone identifies like, I'm Christian or I'm pagan or I have this faith or I don't have a faith or I want to understand the world more through a psychological sense, I'll change my language so that it's able to connect with them. I won't push I'll limit how much I push my own bias, because I'm constantly questioning whether I'm saying something because I have a certain agenda, or if I'm saying it because I think it's useful to the person having a reading. And on that same kind of way, like if a person's coming to me for a reading, I would hope they have an understanding of who I am as a person as well, and they're seeking a perspective from my experience. So I try to be as transparent as possible with my own values and my own identities. And as far as being a fortune teller, I definitely claim that title for myself. I know people kind of have issue with it. It holds a lot of charges for folks as far as it sounding scammy or entertainment-like, or that someone does only predictive types of readings. I see if someone's doing a fortune-telling reading, right? We're presenting for that moment. This is how the future will be. This is like a destiny, right? We know this is how external circumstances will affect the client. After that, they can drop that information. They don't have to take that reading as it is. It's just that's one possibility. But for that moment, we are telling the future, and it could change someone's perspective, which then it would change their future. So we are telling about the future. And on the opposite side of it, when I say it's like a reading that is more about personal narrative or personal growth or development or individual learning and self-knowledge, not fortune telling. Even in that, someone will reassess, reevaluate, reflect on their life, and they will also change their future. So in a way, they are also telling their fortune by what they're seeing in themselves and how they may act from it. So I like the term fortune teller personally. I think it leaves a lot open for what that could be for me. And then also, just socially, media-wise, people are very familiar with the term. And I've had people come up to me when I've done public readings and go, "Oh, you're a fortune teller," because all my sign says is tarot readings. And I'll say, yes, I am. Why don't you have a reading? And let it be what it is, they'll take away from that experience whatever they need to take away or they want to take away, rather than me saying, well, no, actually I do this counseling style, or it's like intuitive, or it's we're going to work on personal development conversation. I don't get into that trying to explain who I am and what I do. I just work with where they are and what they're coming and looking for as much as I can. So number 8, are you a fixer or a looker? Again, both. Not either or. Again, it depends, on the person's question and the kind of attitude they're taking. So if they're saying, I have this problem and I'm looking for a solution, then we would go ahead and see what options are available to them or what they're considering as solutions and how that might impact them or how they might relate to it. More on the looker side, if someone just wants to say, what's going to go on in my life in the next year or the next month, what's going on in my relationship sphere of life or my career, then we're just looking. Out of that might come something where they identify a point of conflict that they would like to fix. So again, it really is going to be dependent on the particular reading and the needs of the person. I don't often have a fixed agenda with whether I'm looking or if I'm fixing. I think I am looking at the person and considering what do they want, what do they need, and having that conversation first before I go into a reading. Number 9, do you read for free or for a fee? Both as well. So I do have a website, and I do online readings, and I do in-person readings in my home where I charge a fee. In some cases I will do free readings, like if it's just casual, maybe I have friends over and we give each other readings, or we're just doing like a collaborative reading. I think in those times it's great. But if someone's wanting my undivided attention and they're wanting my experience and my time, then I definitely would like to be compensated in some way. Sometimes that's by trade. Most of the times it's by a fee. I also read at markets, and I've read on the street. The table's set up. I've taught workshops and read at tea houses. Sometimes by donation with a suggested guideline, and sometimes for a flat rate. Number 10, is there anything you won't predict in a reading? Well, that goes back to accuracy and whether or not we do predictive readings. So there's topics that I won't do readings on, and more it's more out of the motivation of the person. So I do third-party readings. I'll read on someone that's not present. I will kind of ask why, what's the point, and would that be valuable to the person? And we'll have a discussion about that, and not necessarily in a way where I'm trying to judge a person's motivation or intentions. But I will say I want to do readings in a way that is supportive of creating more compassion and understanding in the world. If someone's coming and they want to have a reading on someone that's not there, maybe an ex, I might ask, how will this help you have a more healthy relationship with the person? And if they don't have an answer for that, then I say maybe we could focus on your experience right now first and work there. Maybe that would change in the future, whether or not they would still want a reading on someone that isn't present or someone that's not in their life anymore. I know another big topic is health issues. So I haven't had anyone really ask on health issues. I've had people ask about the impact of a health issue on their career, so I would read on the career, not the health issue itself. I think also, instead of saying no to certain types of questions, I can say yes and reframe it in a way that might be more actionable or more personalized for the person. So we can still talk about health, and we can talk about one's relationship to healing, one's relationship to suffering, so that there's something valuable in that, rather than it being like, you're gonna get better, you're not gonna get better. Just this kind of matter of fact, maybe more predictive reading style. Other things that I don't read on. Have I turned, I'm trying to think now. I don't think I've turned anyone away for a reading. I've had some that I've kind of raised my eyebrow at. Some people have wanted readings on someone that passed away recently or passed away at a very young age, like babies and young children. They wanted readings from the spirit of that child or that person. And I have done those types of readings, and I do them in a very general way as well, as in what is, and I limit that, what is a message from this being, from this person that used to be in your life for you now, and we work with that. So it'll be like a 1 or 2 card type of reading. I think if I knew someone better and it wasn't just a stranger, I might do something more in depth. But if I have a stranger coming up to me asking for that type of reading, I tend to tread very lightly and keep it very limited as far as what that kind of interaction would be. So it's like yes, but with like a couple amendments. And I think that's all. 10 questions. I'll have the links below to the original set of questions as well as to Sandy Anastasi if you're interested in seeing her videos. So thank you.